All right, everyone, welcome back to the Awards Whisperers. Got another big show for you. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to talk Globe reactions. The Globes were last week. We're going to react to the SAG nominations. We have our barf bags close by. And we're going to do some BAFTA predicting, I believe. And also the Critics' Choice are tonight. So we're going to see what those star horrors.
Yeah,
we're going to predict their star horroring tonight. Let's jump into Globe reactions. I got to say, before we talk any specific category, they were surprisingly not awful.
They were surprisingly not awful. I think already nominations were not awful or as awful as we are accustomed to. Because you know how they are. I thought the show was kind of a train wreck.
Yes.
For, I think all the reasons that we now have read about related to that host. That yeah, it's just watching it. I think right from the the opening monologue, I was like, this is a really tough job. It's just the way he was struggling. I'm like, it is just a very unforgiving gig. And then he sucked ass so
bad.
Deeply. Yeah. It was.
People continually conflate stand-up with hosting, and they're two entirely different things.
Yes, it's just two complete ways of being like funny and entertaining.
Yeah,
that just do not gel.
You think of the best host, and you think of or the legendary host. You think of Bob Hope. You think of Billy Crystal, Whoopi Goldberg. They did some stand-up, but they were much better at a specific skill, which hosting is. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, because I'm thinking, is a host even really necessary to start with? Because you have all these celebrities coming in, usually it's in pairs, and they do have a little skit written up, ready to go, that's gonna entertain you for a minute. And that's kind of it. What else do you need? I don't as you said. I'm not tuning in to just sit in front of a stand-up special. And I just the years that there was no host, I could honestly not tell the difference.
No one cares.
There's just a disembodied voice that's just telling you who's gonna walk out on stage, and then they do their little skit. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. And you just deal with it and you just move on. I'm just there to see people losing awards and their faces while that happens. That's why we're there. And but in terms of the awards, it was mostly I would say I think we did really good with our predictions.
Yeah.
Just to start off from there. Yeah.
I think the biggest surprise for me was the strength of Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah. So I did not expect.
Yeah. Winning screenplay was
to happen. I did not see that coming.
Was pretty incredible. And then I think we both had predicted Past Lives for international. So for it to win there, just shows its strength.
Which, to be fair, it was my second option in that category. I would just think we did that. That podcast as Past Lives was just sort of surging. It had just won National Society as well. I think we were
Seattle.
A little bit. I'm really, really happy that Anatomy is doing so well, mainly because it just, I think, solidifies Sandra's chances.
Yeah. And we'll talk about it when we get to BAFTAs, but I think BAFTA is going to be all over it. I think
so too. Yeah.
To me, Anatomy doing so well at the Globes was kind of indicative of its new membership, and that there's a bunch of really thoughtful, knowledgeable European voters now.
Yeah, younger and a little more versed in what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And we need that.
It shows how strong that movie is in Europe.
Yeah.
So BAFTA is going to be all over it, and I think that's going to help carry it to a good showing on Oscar morning.
I'm really looking at BAFTA to really sort of solidify, Anatomy, but also Zone of Interest, I think, and especially All of Us Strangers.
Yeah,
which I
those
have
are
my problems with, but I would still like it to get nominated. I think over about half of the stuff that's actually probably getting in. So yeah, yeah,
yeah. I think when we get to the BAFTA discourse, I think those are three movies that we definitely will see some movement on. Like they're going to get some good traction at BAFTA, and then we'll see how that'll translate to Oscar morning. But it's going to help all of them, I think.
I think the biggest surprise at the Globes was actually screenplay, probably
Yeah,
off the top of my head, at least. I think that's sort of like the one where I was like, oh shit,
yeah. Boy
this
in the
is
Heron
not. Yeah,
winning animated. I think people were predicting. Most of us were predicting Spider-Man.
yeah, and it was just more of like what made sense because I did have an inkling of a feeling that Boy and the Heron could upset. I think the expanded voting body that's actually a little more, as we were saying, a little more in the know and a little more worldly. That
Yeah,
they picked, I think, what they actually liked and not trying to sort of like predict the Oscars. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which the Critics' Choice will be doing. Uh, yeah. Other than that, I think the Globes played out pretty much as we expected in the acting categories. Um, the one category I think we had our eyes on was supporting actor, and Robert Downey Jr. took that. So
Yeah. Which we
that
which we called. Yeah.
yeah, that narrative is off and running now.
I think so.
Melton is fading.
Poor baby.
Poor baby
It's
girl.
been like a really rough like last two couple of weeks. For someone that we were saying is actually in contention to possibly win.
Yeah,
Because in last month we were like, oh, he is like one of the front runners. And yeah, things change really. I mean, in terms of critics, he still was, I think, one of the names that people really sort of like gelled with.
yeah.
Because he got a lot of critics awards, but then I think the industry just did not like the movie.
That's
Period.
what's that's what's starting to
Sink in. It's just like
yeah,
it's just not gonna happen across the board because it's just not a movie that they just understood.
yeah. SAG snubbed it.
Yeah.
It's
And there was a
out of
huge
picture.
also Maestro collapse that I think is
Yeah,
because I mean we've been doing this like we've been talking like about like this stuff for like what 30 years like you and I like 25 yes
yeah,
so I think like we are a little jaded in terms of like expecting the least and then like being surprised and I
yeah,
think in many ways like Maestro like last month 2 months ago to me was like this is probably going to win everything.
yeah.
There's
I
just
had
gonna
that
yeah, and it's
fear.
not. It is not
It's it's honestly one of the weakest in the best picture race.
because if it drops out of like the best picture like chosen 10, I'd be like yeah I don't think that that's even that big of a surprise.
Yeah, Mulligan doesn't feel like a sure thing.
No,
Cooper, the only way I see him winning now is if there's the backlash to the backlash
but it needs
gets
to start
him
like the
like
backlash
a
is
weird
happening like
sympathy for
now,
him.
which is the
Yeah,
worst possible time. If it was like backlash to the backlash that was from like last month,
yeah.
but it's too late. I think people are just not into the bullshit of
Yeah,
what that
that's.
movie is.
I think I was thinking about this before we got on, and it feels like we're in an era now where a lot of the awards campaign, like the subtext, has become text,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone just sees right through Maestro
Mm-hmm.
in a way that they wouldn't have seen through it even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, definitely not like
Oh,
15, 20 years ago, like in the height of
20
the
years ago, Maestro would
Miramax
have won
era.
like everything.
Oh, people would be falling all over themselves.
Everything.
But
Everything.
now I think people in social media has enhanced this, but I think people are just so aware of what he's doing and why he's doing it
Yeah.
that it just rings false.
Because it is.
Yeah,
And there's like
easily.
no way to juggle it like in any other way where it's like this is actually a story I cared about or like a character that I cared about. All of the sort of like the media, like the press junkets that he's been doing are about just how hard he worked on this performance and how long it took him to get into character. And it was like, it's not like, because I think it was like actors on actors. I don't remember who he did it with, but he was like talking
Emma
about
Stone.
yeah. So he was talking about the fact that like, this is something that I've worked on for years. I wasn't just offered this role 6 months ago. And it's like, you're shading like
Girl.
your biggest competition in a movie that is much stronger at this stage than your movie. Fucking read the room.
Yeah.
Like,
Girl. It's,
like
I
who's
think
gonna
that
listen to that and be
also,
like, oh, what a great interview.
I
Like,
do, I actually think that interview was a pivot point for Maestro. Like, I feel like
yeah.
that was, it was just an unforced error on his part where,
Because I don't think his PR people were like, this is what you should be saying. Or were like,
right.
it just read so desperate in like a very sort of like vain and narcissistic way.
Because up until then, they had been careful of like putting Carrie Mulligan first billing and
Yeah.
putting her on the poster, and at like their screening events, like bringing up 75,000 crew members on stage to be like, "Look, it's a group thing. It's not just about Bradley." And
Right.
then Bradley immediately
Yeah. That
opens his
was
mouth
that
and is
was to be
like,
like the turning point where it was like, well, you're not voting for me, so you should know that I actually worked really hard on this movie. And it's like, well, they don't give out awards for like, all your hard work and like the best intentions you had. It's
"Yeah,
just not how it works. It needs to be good, and it's not
right,
good. And sorry.
yeah." It's been interesting, but also not surprising in a way that Maestro has deflated like this.
What did you make of Best Picture Comedy and Musical?
I was actually a little surprised. I thought they
Me
would
too.
go for Barbie. That was
Me
the other
too.
thing I think that was a little bit notable is that they
Yeah.
were pretty soft on Barbie despite it getting 7,500 nominations.
Yeah. It won song, and then it won the made up stupid
The
like
box office.
movie. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
box office. Like, yeah.
So I think, yeah, to me, that I was thinking Poor Things wasn't not as strong going into that night, but I think, yeah, it's ahead of Barbie in the Best Picture lineup now. I mean, the Barbie's still getting in, but to me, I think it kind of laid bare maybe the idea that most of these awards groups want the ratings that Barbie will bring, but they're not necessarily going to give Barbie anything
Yeah, because I'm trying to like,
major.
I'm kind of like trying to parse the reaction in terms of like when it comes to Barbie from the perspective of someone who's maybe part of the industry who's very obviously thankful that a movie like this exists because it made a shit ton of money. But then, do you actually give it awards
Yeah,
for what it is? For what it is, and I don't know. Is Barbie in your Best Picture top 5?
with Poor Things moving up, it's on the cusp. I'd probably
It's on the
about
cusp.
6 right now. Yeah,
I would say it's on the cusp, but I would say probably it could be one of the situations if we still had like 5 Best Picture nominees where it misses out on picture and then maybe Gerwig makes it in. But I mean, obviously, we don't have to speculate because that's not just how it works out like anymore. But I just don't think that it's as strong as it was as a kind of like a cultural
yeah.
phenomenon.
I think there's not an urgency to reward it.
Because it also made so much money that it's like, you guys are good.
There
You're
is
good.
incentive to nominate it
Yeah, absolutely.
because it brings the eyeballs, or they think it will. But yeah, I imagine when it gets to Oscars, it'll win song.
Yeah,
It might win another tech or two, like production design,
yeah.
or costume. But yeah, it's. I don't think it's going to win screenplay anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's an interesting case because it's hard to like look at a precedent for a movie like that in the award season.
Also because like I'm not really expecting anything to change tonight after Critics' Choice because they were literally just waiting to see what the Globes were gonna do and then just kind of like go off of that.
Yeah,
So I think they were just like, you know what, we don't really need to vote for Barbie. We'll give it song.
right.
and then we're good because the Globes already kind of snubbed it, so we can look in a different direction and be right at the
Yeah.
Oscars. So I mean, when we get to talk about that, we'll we'll give our predictions. But I'm now in a place where I think like Critics' Choice has become just the most basic ass voting body / like award, like useless, kind of disingenuous, with like no real intention to actually single out good stuff that they liked.
So, yeah, it's almost bizarre because you look at the nominees, you look at what was critically acclaimed, and like that Venn diagram. I feel like each year that Venn diagram just like gets farther and farther apart, and they're nominating things they didn't like, essentially.
Thank you. Exactly. So it's like, how did this make it in over something that is literally like 20 points higher on like Metacritic?
Right, exactly.
That you said was one of the best movies of the year, and then it's like, well, then where is it?
Right.
Yeah, they are awful. Awful.
It's Do we want to actually really quickly just do our predictions for Critics' Choice, just to
let's do that.
get the vomit out of our mouth, the vomit taste.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how you want to do this, but I think I'll be pretty simple and just say I think all 4 acting nominee will be Globe winners.
Yeah.
All 4 acting winners at the Critics' Choice will be the Globe winners. I think it's going to be Randolph, Downey Jr., Gladstone, and Murphy.
That's who I have.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's just,
they're not going to do anything interesting or contrary.
Nope.
They got their marching orders.
There might be a situation where Cooper ties with Murphy just because they redid like the tallying after the Globes was like, oh shit, it's not actually Cooper, it's Murphy, so we cannot be wrong, and let's just, because they do that.
Oh god, yeah.
Like they like the voting is super shady, like the way that it goes down. It's just
there's some chaotic like gay man at the center of all this who's just like
on like methamphetamines and just like
just like getting the vote getting the vote tally, like taking the marker, just like, nope, this one we're gonna do this instead.
But I also actually don't feel like that picture and director are gonna be that surprising. It's gonna be Oppenheimer and Nolan.
I agree too. Yep.
And what is up for screenplay?
Oh, so for adapted, it's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, All of Us Strangers, American Fiction, Poor Things, Oppenheimer, and Killers of the Flower Moon.
So it's going to be Oppenheimer.
I think it's going to be Oppenheimer.
There's like, I think, a 5% chance that they actually go with Killers, but no.
Yeah. And then original is May, December, Air, Maestro, Barbie, The Holdovers, and Past Lives.
This is a little more interesting. I think it could be Past Lives, actually.
That's what I'm leaning to.
If they want to give it something, it's here. It could also be Holdovers. But I don't think the most obvious like option for me is Past Lives here.
That's what I would put number 1. I think, Holdovers is a definite possibility. Barbie would be in third for me.
Sure.
But I would go with Past Lives.
Yeah. So let's say Critics' Choice. This is all you get from us. That's it. Go home and think about what you're doing.
Let's do SAG reactions, and then we can also do DGA and PGA reactions real quick.
Yes.
So let's do the guilds.
Yay.
Let's talk about the SAG noms. So SAG really said, what's a movie? Doesn't matter.
Because the ensemble award, honestly, it's just turned into, let's just nominate people we like. Because on the TV side, they nominate, I mean, I haven't seen the show, and I'm sure it's amazing, but like Last of Us is not an ensemble.
It's 2 people.
It's 2 people, and there's literally 2 people nominated for an ensemble award. Like, 2 people is the opposite of an ensemble.
Yeah, which makes you wonder if they just vote on the films and the TV shows, and they don't see an ensemble list, and they create the ensemble, like who's nominated after the nominees are decided.
It just feels like very much like a situation of like, I really like the show, so I'm gonna just vote for it here because this is a award that we have that looks like the most like a best picture or best like TV show award.
Yeah,
because they don't have that.
Right.
And it's just kind of like,
it's also, this is not our territory, but it's so stupid and bizarre to me that they don't have supporting categories in the TV side.
very bizarre. Very bizarre.
Why? Well, who does that help? And there's no, I mean, I don't know.
You can get like 2 more statuettes made. It's like plexiglass. It's like, it's like literally a $5 piece of like plastic.
Yeah, like you're literally celebrating acting, and you don't have. You're the one completely acting centric precursor or award, and you don't have a supporting category for your TV performers.
It's stupid. It's stupid.
So stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway, but back to film.
Yes.
Let's do supporting actor. It's Sterling K. Brown, American Fiction, Willem Dafoe, Robert De Niro, Robert Downey Jr., and Ryan Gosling.
I do not think that this is the Oscars 5.
No. I think it's going to be 3 out of 5, maybe.
Yeah. But I haven't decided exactly what's going to happen at the Oscars, though. I just know that it's not this. But because I don't think that Brown is in.
No.
And it feels like a SAG nomination that was really off of the strength of the film and the fact that he's well liked by the community, as he should be. It's also, I think, one of those instances where there's like a straight actor playing a gay role, which for me is automatically a thank you next kind of.
Yeah.
Sorry, but yeah. The omission of Melton here, I think, is really, really bad.
Yeah, that was the biggest surprise overall for all the nominations for me.
Because we were already kind of like, oh, he's not on the BAFTA long list. How odd, but maybe it's just them, and it's not just them. It's more.
There's something about May December that
did not click,
and even though I thought he was the most universally liked thing about May December, right. Even people who didn't like the movie seemed to really like him. He didn't show up here, so that is really concerning.
That is really concerning. I just need to sort of like sit down and then decide then what's going to happen if he's not in.
Yeah.
Because now I think like Dafoe is in a much better position. And Ruffalo had a big miss.
Yeah, that was a big miss for Ruffalo.
This week. So, but it also feels like now we tend to get, especially in supporting categories, we tend to get movies that sneak in like 2 like performers in the same category, which obviously would make sense insofar as Poor Things I think is the best probably candidate to pull that off.
Yeah, I would agree.
It will probably be actually All of Us Strangers at BAFTA that does that. But we'll talk about that later.
No, you're right. You're right, which will be interesting.
But it's just very bizarre that of the two supporting players in that movie, that it would be Ruffalo that gets left out.
Yeah, to me, Ruffalo is the much bigger, showier role.
I will say that Dafoe, I think, has a more was a lengthier and maybe like more respected kind of like resume behind him. And I think in a way, Dafoe has, because I have no stats handy to, but he's sort of like, I think, turned into like the male version of Glenn Close in a way in the mind of people. Because I think he has like half the number of her nominations, but I think over the years, the way that they're spread out, it's like he keeps coming back and then he doesn't win.
Yeah.
They go out of their way to nominate him, even in stuff that's not very mainstream, like that Attorney's Gate movie.
Yeah.
but then he doesn't win. So I feel like it's one of those situations where if it's going to happen for him, and I'm on the side that it's actually more likely to happen than not, then it's kind of like going to be like a movie like this, that it's like that's like a huge contender in a lot of other categories. It's firmly into the best picture conversation, best director. There's like passion behind it across the board. And then it's sort of like, this is a movie worthy of actually finally giving him the award. The issue is that Downey Jr. is in the exact same position
Yeah.
with the exact same narrative and an even stronger film.
Yeah, I think Downey Jr. I totally agree with everything you're saying. I still think Downey Jr. is probably winning,
Yeah.
but I do think you're absolutely right about Defoe. If anyone's going to beat him, it's probably going to be Defoe at this point. And if Defoe gets nominated and does not win again, I think he's absolutely a front runner for Nosferatu next year.
Because this would be his 5th nomination, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and so Nosferatu would be his 6th, which
Right.
yeah,
But in a different category, which I think he's probably leading that.
he's probably leading that. Yeah,
So I think that makes his case even stronger. Because then the same thing I think with Glenn Close. I think they're kind of like waiting for her to come back as like in the lead actress category to reconsider what they did. And I think
to atone.
and I think the same applies to him probably.
Yeah.
So I think losing this year is going to make his case even more compelling next year if the movie is good.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's an also weird parallel thing because his second nomination was for what was that movie? Shadow of the Vampire.
Yeah.
Where he was playing an actor playing Nosferatu.
And I would say he almost won for that.
Yeah, he got great reviews for that. So it'll be like I don't know. It'll be like a weird parallel thing to come back and play Nosferatu again or be in the movie Nosferatu, and yeah, I think a lot of things will line up for him next year.
Yeah.
So we have Ruffalo and Melton now on the bubble. It's funny because this category seemed really set early on.
I mean, like last time we talked, we were like, "This is the 5."
And now it's kind of cracked
Put
open.
a stamp on it, and that's how it is.
And BAFTA's going to crack it open even more, I think.
Yeah.
So there's as always this category fuckery can happen.
Yeah, I guess you also need to sort of like decide how much you're going to buy into what happens at BAFTA, because we're going to see like some out of left field stuff happening there that's clearly not going to translate. But then some will, and I do still think that outside of like the odd year that they had where we're trying to mix things up, that they're still probably the best predictor in terms of like
because there's the most overlap in the voting body.
Yeah,
for
in
sure.
terms of like the Oscars, they have pretty much broken the tie in the most competitive Best Actress race we've ever had, which is when Frances McDormand ended up winning for Nomadland. It was them that got it right.
Yeah.
And it just seems like year after year that there's just like a consistency in terms of anticipating what's going to happen, even if it doesn't make sense right away. And then in the end, they're right. Yeah.
I totally agree. I'm most excited for those nominations. SAG can go fuck itself, but BAFTA, I'm really curious.
Yeah.
Just kidding, SAG. I love you. Let me in your guild, please.
Do you need to like apply and then like spend a lot of money on the application fee or something like that? It's like really expensive, right?
Yeah, it's like $5,000 a year to be in.
But it's like a one-time thing.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know if I was in and I was voting, we would not have these nominees. We would have much better nominees.
Exactly.
Supporting actress, there's also a little bit of movement. So we have Emily Blunt, we have Danielle Brooks, we have Penelope Cruz and Ferrari, we have Jodie Foster, Nayad, and Davine Joy Randolph, the holdovers.
And first of all, like, we did amazing because we both predicted Cruz, and I don't think that a lot of people did, but we know better. And It's hard to talk about this category because I think it's the most sort of like predictable one at this point. Because I don't know what it would take for Randolph to just sort of like fall off the map at this point.
No,
It's just not gonna happen.
she's taking it.
She's gonna win everything. So it's done. I think it's gonna be fun trying to predict who the other four are. I could see a reality where Randolph does not win BAFTA and it still does not matter in the slightest.
Yeah.
But that could be the only place which she slightly falters because we know how BAFTA is. And then maybe it's Emily Blunt, which we probably knew all along was like probably like comfortably second or third in the race all along.
Yeah, she's. I would put her at 2 probably. I don't think she's any chance of winning, but she's shown up everywhere. She's in the Best Picture frontrunner. She's missed out like 17 times on an Oscar nomination.
This is just one of those categories where no matter who you think is in second, you know that they don't have a chance regardless. Yeah. So it's very weird to sort of like talk about it in terms of like, you know, drum up like, you know, excitement about it. I'm excited that Devon is going to win. I'm excited about that. And that's wonderful. I think just in terms of having like competitive races that we get excited about, this one ain't it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I usually get really annoyed with sweeps, but she's so great in it and is also it's a performance that I feel like it's unexpected that it's sweeping just because it's not the type of performance that usually sweeps. Usually it's a big legendary actor.
Yeah.
Like Helen Mirren doing the Queen, right?
Yeah.
Like doing a big transformational, character, Oscar Beatty, and hers is just real and honest and beautifully. That's kind of it, though. Like realized.
We got annoyed with sweeps because usually it's people that don't deserve it that end up, as in Helen Mirren. Since you brought her up, but I mean, when it's actually someone who's legitimately great in the movie. And also like a relative, like kind of like new face to this, I think, level of recognition. And a minority, I'm like there for it.
Yeah. I'm all there for it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the real interest in this category is just who else is going to go along with her.
Yeah.
And I think
I don't have my mind made up, but I don't think that it's a SAG 5.
I don't think it's a SAG 5. Yeah. I think Blunt is the safest.
Yeah.
Cruz is surging when she needs to surge. It's very parallel mothers for her right now.
She doesn't even need like precursors to get in at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah.
And she also has just amazing reviews too.
That is the main thing. That's I think that's kept her afloat this entire time is just she is genuinely just great in the movie. Which honestly is really all that should matter. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Jodie Foster has shown up everywhere that she's needed to show up.
Yeah.
I think I would still put her, she's in that like squishy 4th, 5th, 6th area. She could still miss, I think. But I mean, so far she's hit everywhere. Brooks has hit everywhere. I think she's probably in. But then we have, there's Julianne Moore, May December, that could have a resurgence, though that's looking less likely. There's always the possibility of Sandra Hüller for the Zone of Interest, because that Zone of Interest keeps doing really, really well, and as more people see it.
Correct.
And I feel like she could easily slip in. And then the only other person I can think of is Rosamund Pike.
Yeah.
But...
which I would imagine gets in a BAFTA.
Yeah, but not getting in here, like with Saltburn not getting in here at all, that makes me less willing to entertain that thought.
It's not great. Yeah, it's not great news. I think the hardest thing, actually, because I was thinking about it now, the hardest thing we're going to have to do at some point after BAFTA nominations come out is then sit down with the people that got nominations in all 4 and decide who gets snubbed. Because that's every year that happens.
Who gets Lady Gaga?
Is Lady Gaga for Joker 2? You can already predict that.
Yeah, because there's going to be some people. There's going to be at least a couple actors this year across the four categories who show up everywhere and still get left out.
And it's going to be, I think, fun for us to try and parse like that and that stat because it does hold up every year.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna need to confront it at some
Yeah,
point. Yeah, but we'll wait until after BAFTA.
yeah,
I'm not sold on Foster yet, just not because of her, because of the movie.
mm-hmm.
Just like every week, it's like, oh, they actually like it a little more than I thought, and then something happens where it's like completely shut out, and I'm like, actually, they don't, and I
Yeah,
don't know what to make of it. Brooks, I'm not even that sold on, and honestly, I could see The Color Purple just get shut out completely,
yeah. That's definitely a possibility
and that's it. Yeah,
because it's looking more and more. The Critics' Choice nominated it, but they were
because you know
trying to
what,
cover all their bases just in
they were
case.
trying to cover their ass. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, just in
like
case. Yeah,
because it hadn't come out yet at that point. Um, when they were voting, it hadn't. The embargo hadn't been
it
lifted.
was embargo. It's like you're voting for like including like all these categories, and you haven't even officially reviewed it.
Yeah, they were like, we don't know, but it could be. So let's just keep it. We'll put
This
it in
is the
just in case.
case. Yeah, it's like literally an awards body where if they could nominate 50 like people in every category, they would.
Oh yeah. Oh, they would 100%.
Yeah. But so like kind of like with best supporting actor, there's gonna be like I think someone sneaking in to maybe like take the place of someone who looks a little more established, but I haven't decided
Hmm.
who that is. I have an idea, maybe like actor and actress, but not here.
Well, let's jump there. Let's go to
Yeah.
best actor. Uh, some interesting movement here too. We have Bradley Cooper with Maestro, Coleman Domingo Rustin, Paul Giamatti The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright American Fiction.
I would say that Domingo would be that person that gets in everywhere and then gets left out, but I actually don't think he's getting in a BAFTA.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get in on BAFTA, but he
Yeah.
did show up here, which was good for him. And
Yeah.
I think again, it's the movie is nothing I don't think anyone's talking about or has any passion about, but it is the type of role that does well with awards bodies. So it
Yeah.
showed up here. I don't know if he's making the final five, but seeing DiCaprio not on the list.
Is heartening. But I mean, I was because that article that I linked you to like a couple of days ago from the Film Experience, where they were saying basically, it's become I think even more of a trend nowadays, where it's just hard to get in if you're the only sort of like possible nominee in your movie.
Mm.
Or the only shot at nomination for your whole movie is just your performance. It's just mathematically harder to actually materialize that nomination. And that would be exactly what he is up against. Because
Domingo?
like Rustin isn't really getting in anywhere else.
Nowhere else.
Maybe song, but even there, I don't think that it's a given. And I
No, it's
also don't think
definitely
that song is strong enough to really give you that padding that you would need.
yeah.
Even like
And lots of things
screenplay.
get in song without getting nominated elsewhere. So
Right.
like
Right.
everything Diane Warren writes for.
Yeah, God bless her. I'm still I'm in that place where I'm like I'd rather predict that he's not in and then be pleasantly surprised than kind of jinx it.
Yeah.
Because I really do want the two gays to get in.
Yeah. I think because Andrew Scott's going to show up at BAFTA.
Yes.
He's been
He might actually
everywhere.
win BAFTA.
Yeah. He's been everywhere and then some this award season. So I still think he's in the hunt. I think Giamatti and Murphy are out front.
Right.
Cooper's probably getting in.
I would say probably.
Yeah. Wright's looking strong now. DiCaprio on the bubble.
I don't know.
I've had him in just because the star wattage and the fact that he's in a best picture front runner.
He's had some pretty glaring omissions over the years though.
But yeah, I don't think anyone's in love with his performance.
Yeah. And there's also like a
So,
performance in that movie that has really sort of like stolen the thunder from everybody else.
right.
Where it's just like I think people that really appreciate that movie and appreciate the acting in it are just really focused on Gladstone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think there's about 2 slots in this category that are very open right now. So it'll be interesting to see what BAFTA does, knowing that they're going to probably definitely nominate Scott. And also, I mean, Keegan, definitely a possibility.
It is. I think I'm gonna go like the homosexual route with at least Scott and just say that he's in.
Hmm.
I'm gonna wait and see what happens at BAFTA, obviously, but I'm like 99% sure that he's in, and I'm also like thinking that it's between him and Murphy to actually win. Which I mean, I think I don't remember just off the top of my head who's the last actor to win uh, lead actor at BAFTA and then miss out. It might be Jamie Bell, actually.
Oh, you might be right.
I probably not, but I mean that is the only instance where I can think of that happening.
Also, if Murphy, Scott, and Keegan get in, that's 3 Irishmen.
It is.
I feel like
It's too many.
BAFTA will have an aneurysm.
Yeah, Kilgan, I don't know.
Yeah, the only reason I think he might is just because he won last year.
Yeah, which
Um,
fair. It is a good reason.
but he's definitely not a sure thing to get in.
Yeah, I also think that the movie for what it is, isn't necessarily something that I see everybody just rallying behind and voting for. And
No.
you get to like the hot tub scene and it's just like guzzling like watery jizz and it's like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I'm turning this off."
Right. I
So,
think it's a
yeah.
movie clearly made for like 22-year-old people who think they're film snobs who like have seen 12
It's
movies their entire life and
it's like a
then see
Karen's
this.
idea of what's edgy.
Yeah. It's like I feel like the reaction to it has been like what I was like when I first saw a Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
I saw like Pulp Fiction when I was like 17 and I was like, "Oh my god."
I I I wouldn't even call it like a movie for the gays because the gays were like, "All right."
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not.
So it's like what's the audience for this film?
It's for sexually repressed 23-year-old letterboxed um, tastemakers who think they're
No,
tastemakers.
see,
I don't
because
know.
that's me though. And I gave it half a star. I don't know. I'd rather he actually get in over DiCaprio. Honestly.
Oh, yeah. Anyone over DiCaprio? There's no one yeah.
Yeah, seriously. So,
Yeah. I would be very happy if DiCaprio did not get in. Sorry, Leo.
yeah, I'm not even that sorry. Honestly.
Let's jump to lead actress.
Let's do that.
This is a little more solidified, but there's still, I think, one slot that's 1.5 slots that are.
Yeah.
Sounds like I'm saying sluts, but I'm saying slots.
Sluts. Our 5 sluts.
Sluts. Outstanding performance by a slut in a leading role. We have. No, we know the only slut right now is Bradley Cooper in this award season. Annette Bening. The nominees are Annette Bening, Naiad, Lily Gladstone, Killers, Carey Mulligan, Maestro, Margot Robbie, Barbie, and Emma Stone, Poor Things.
I don't remember if we went 5 out of 5, but if we didn't, we were really, really close.
I think we did.
Yeah.
No, I didn't predict Mulligan. You went 5 for 5. I went 4 for 5.
I don't remember if I predicted Robbie. Actually, I don't remember.
You may have both been 4 or 5 then.
Yeah, but
We're mostly right.
It wasn't 5 out of 5. It was like 4 out of 5. I mean, it makes sense. I think this is a fairly predictable lineup. I also think that Honestly, Gladstone is almost as strong as Randolph to me.
Yeah.
And it
Her
does
only chance of
not.
losing is BAFTA, I
It does
think.
not. Yeah, I mean that could still happen for both of them actually, without it really impacting their chances.
Yeah.
Because BAFTA just does. They do love their white people.
Hmm.
They do, and I think that is more indicative of an issue that is endemic to like what's going on with them, as opposed to what's actually going to happen at the Oscars.
Yeah.
That's something they need to sort out, you know, if they actually do want to do that, just amongst themselves.
Yeah. It's like beans and toast. It's something that's their problem that they need to figure out.
Right.
The British need to figure out.
But I mean, so I would say that Gladstone and Randolph are just kind of like locks to me, regardless of BAFTA. They're
Hmm.
both gonna win the like at SAG like really easily. And again, it's like a category where I need to decide what I want to do with Robbie. To
Hmm.
me, that's what it's sort of like coming down to, because I think now like Huller did not make it in at SAG, which we called.
Yeah.
And I don't think that really matters, because honestly, if Gladstone loses a BAFTA, it is probably gonna be Huller that wins it.
Hmm. She's so strong.
Well, yeah, we'll cross that bridge when and if we get there. But I just don't. It's sort of like we were saying about Barbie. It's sort of like a lot of it just feels like the box office was the reward for the movie,
Hmm.
and then they want to clearly acknowledge that it did so well and that it was a huge success, which the industry loves. But then, do we actually nominate it everywhere? I
Hmm.
don't know. Some have. I don't expect BAFTA to, honestly. It just feels like the perfect sort of like candidate to kind of like get snubbed just because they're snobs and
Hmm.
it's too a little too mainstream for them. Um, I do you like what day is it? Like the 14th of January. Do you
Hmm.
think that Robbie is getting nominated at the Oscars? It's a hard question. I'm sorry. I'm just
I
kind of
would, at
like
this
trying to
point,
get
I
some
would
perspective.
say yes,
Okay.
just because she's made it everywhere so
Yeah.
far. But, and I think Mulligan is weaker than her,
Yeah.
but I would not be surprised if she's not. So she's definitely um, in that squishy realm around 5'6". So,
Because
but
if I decide down the line to take out both Robbie and Mulligan, which is something I'm considering, then who sneaks in is my question.
so we would have Gladstone, Stone, Huller,
Yeah.
Benny at that point probably,
Probably Benning, which I
and then
think
Greta
is
Lee
likely.
probably for
Okay.
Past Lives.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that to me is a more likely lineup at the Oscars than what we got at SAG.
Hmm.
Like intellectually to me is, and also like we'll probably need to decide on which acting category is getting that completely out of left field nominee that did not show up anywhere.
Right. And there is that push right now for Ingenue Ellis for Origin.
Which honestly, I would be so down with that.
I haven't seen it, but she's
I
wonderful.
haven't seen it either. I don't care. I just love her.
It does feel later and not as pronounced as the To Leslie push,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? I mean, anything after To Leslie, anything is fucking possible.
So honestly, yes. I think what ended up happening with to Leslie is that it became like that media circus around it really put it on the map.
Hmm.
I'm not seeing that happening for Origin. Maybe it's happening just behind the scenes. And after last year, I wouldn't be surprised if they're just trying to like tone it down intentionally. But also, I feel like a lot of what made it work last year is that it wasn't behind the scenes. Is that at
Hmm.
some point everybody was talking about this really absurd like turn of events for a movie that nobody had seen.
Hmm.
And ultimately, that's why I predicted it was going to happen. It was just because it was too stupid. It was just too stupid to not happen in the end. It was just so unserious.
It was so stupid.
Yeah, and I would. I think I would consider a reality where Anjanou Ellis just shows up. To me, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely happen. I'm not predicting it, but it's definitely in the realm of possibility at this point.
Yeah.
Like, and you're right. There's going to be one person probably who shows up that we're not expecting, and it could, I mean, why not her? It could be.
Yeah. So as I said, I think Gladstone's winning here. The slightest chance for Benning to maybe.
Yeah, she would be the veteran win, but I feel like so many more people have seen Killers than Naiad, so that's her one. The one thing I think holding her back from that, but definitely that could definitely happen.
Like it could be Benning, but I'm like 95% sure that's not.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then we have Ensemble, which they went with American Fiction, Barbie, The Color Purple, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Oppenheimer.
Right, which is easily Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I would say Oppenheimer with Barbie is the number 2.
It's like most ensemble.
Right. It's like
yeah. So
who ensembled the most?
Yeah.
And Barbie definitely ensembled
a lot.
Killers already has the cloud of pretty much most of its native actors are not in the cast.
Yeah, can we just point out that Brenda Fraser is included in this nomination, but Cara Jade Myers is not?
Yeah, insane.
Like, if that's not grounds to completely, like, gut this category and how it's adjudicated next year, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Because what the actual fuck?
Yeah, so I think it's immediately, essentially, disqualified in the hearts of minds of people just for that. Which really sucks, because it could have been a great moment for so many of those actors to get the recognition they deserve for their work on the film.
I mean, the movie should have done more in the first place for them.
Yes.
So, I mean,
yes. That's the whole thing I've realized about what makes Gladstone's performance so great is, to me, in my opinion, her performance is so great because she actually exposes all of the weaknesses of Scorsese and the white cast. Of, like, through her performance, you see all the mistakes that Scorsese made in
exactly
writing this script, where he put his focus, where he put his camera,
and how bad the other two people in it are.
Yeah. So I'm glad she's getting the recognition she deserves.
Yeah.
I wish the rest of her cast, or the rest of the native cast, would have had the chance to, have their moment here. But
they were given more to do. They might have.
Right.
They were not.
What do we make of The Color Purple getting in here?
It just is a movie with a lot of really well-liked people, and these are their colleagues. And I don't think it means that it's getting in for Best Picture at the Oscars. It just means that you vote for your friends. I would vote for anything Taraji P. Henson is in.
Right.
Like
it's also
that's an option. I'm gonna vote for it. So
it's also a big cast.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of really beloved actors in the cast. So not terribly surprised that it showed up here. I agree that it.
Cusp,
yeah. I agree. It's not going to help it translate, I think, to anything else. There's always a SAG nominee or two, ensemble nominee or two that doesn't show up anywhere else. There's always a Captain Fantastic or.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like a few episodes ago, I mean, at least I was saying like it would need like a really huge box office to kind of offset everything else, and it did well at the box office, and even that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it was not enough.
It's been such just a messy rollout for that film.
Yeah.
That I just can't imagine it recovering from that.
It's just not a Christmas movie that came out on Christmas Day, basically. Without any ramp up in terms of like reviews and press.
Mm-hmm.
What I've really heard in terms of like press is just how unhappy like everybody was with like the working conditions.
Right. But you never
Well,
want that to be the narrative.
yeah, well, like while they were shooting, so like if your actors during Oscar seasons are actually saying this, it's just hard to get out of.
Hmm.
It is.
Yeah, I think it's stuck there. I don't know if it's going to do much else beyond this. This might be its last stop.
Because BAFTA's not. It's not.
No,
We know that
it's
it's not doing anything at BAFTA because we have the long lists.
yeah. I think
So,
only Brooks might be its only nomination at
but
BAFTA, but even that might not happen.
even there, yeah. And it's just like literally because there's like 6 nominees in those categories that could happen for her. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, let's SAG. Let's jump over to DGA real quick.
yes.
So the DGA five were Scorsese, Nolan, Gerwig, Lanthimos, and Alexander Payne.
Which 3 of these I'm pretty sure they're getting in at the Oscars.
Yeah, what do we think they're going to go? 3 to 4, or 3 out of 5, 4 out of
I'm
5.
I'm 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 more on the side of 3 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably convince me that maybe like Payne has a shot. Gerwig, I just don't see it. I doesn't see it. If they want to include a female like director, I would think Triet has a better shot, and maybe even Song has a better shot.
Yeah, I think I think Glazer is definitely in at the Oscars
I
for
would
Zone
I
of
would also
Interest.
agree the Glazer is probably getting nominated. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would put him in, and then I think you're right. I think that last spot is it could be Payne, it could be Gerwig, it could be Song, it could be Triet. I think it's gonna be a woman. I think
Because for the movies that we got this year, it would be really bad to have like 5 men up there.
right. So it just depends on which of those 3 women, which of those 3 directors has the momentum at the time of voting. And I go back and forth. I think Song is going to be in screenplay and maybe
Yeah.
win the screenplay,
Triet too.
and Triet too. They like to sometimes have 2 European directors, so Triet could definitely get in. I don't know. I haven't made a decision.
It's just like to me like Past Lives and Anatomy just feel more important
Yeah,
than for what they are than Barbie.
yeah,
And I think that does play a factor in in how then these are voted on. Just the fact that you feel like you're rewarding something meaningful and important is going to make you look good.
yeah. So that's definitely an argument for Triad. The one argument I see for Gerwig is like if they want to just like congratulate her on saving movies.
But I mean that happens every. This is the exact same discussion we were having with Top Gun. Top Gun, the movie that
That's
saves
just true.
movies. It's like there can be a movie that saves movies every year. Like movies have been saved. They've been saved. Like we're fine.
Or thank you for killing Marvel, maybe.
But I mean, we're good. Movies exist. They'll keep on existing. People will still go like to the theater to
Yeah.
to watch movies. We can't just keep like assuming or pretending this is like a narrative every year because it's not. It's like
Yeah.
no longer
But
a narrative.
But that's the thing. The other thing too is like just we've never had a film like Barbie before in
Right.
this kind of position, so
Right.
it's really hard to tell which way they're going to go.
Right.
But I do think if the directors branch tends to be a little snobbier at the Oscars, so I would maybe give the edge to Triad at this point.
I think so too. Yeah.
Let's talk about PGA and the 10 that everyone can't fathom not being nominated.
Which that doesn't really happen that often. So we're probably
Which means
we need to rearrange things around a little bit because it could be a situation where it is the 10, but when's the last time that happened?
right. Are we all going to be right? Or are we all going to be wrong? So the 10 are American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, to me, Maestro can like fuck right off for a number of other no, like in terms of like what's gonna happen for like a number of other movies, because I just feel like it's in. Do you have it in 10th out of this lineup?
I would have it ninth or 10th.
So I have it in 10th, like
Okay.
firmly in 10th place. So that's the one that drops for me. And I don't think Cooper's getting in for Best Director.
No, I don't think so at all.
So that also hurts it. I need to sort of. I need to see what happens with BAFTA, because if we have a situation at BAFTA where like All of Us Strangers is up for like, I don't know, 9 awards, to me that is more indicative of real traction behind it, compared to like a movie that everybody right now seems to be just super annoyed with.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see it getting missing here, which actually would be sort of cruelly hilarious. But it's also a question of what would take its place. And if
Right.
All of Us Strangers does super well at BAFTA, I think it could be in a position to. Because interestingly, the 10 on the short list for BAFTA, All of Us Strangers made it, and American
Yeah.
Fiction did not.
Because I mean, that's also like the thing is like the movies that we would normally say are a threat to maybe cause an upset are firmly in this year. Zone is in, Anatomy is in.
Mm-hmm.
And in other years, we'd be like, oh, the 2 foreign films that could really, pull off a huge surprise. It's not a surprise. Anatomy is probably like top 5.
Yeah. I think after the Globes it is.
Yeah, so I think it's harder to kind of like go off of what's been happening in other years, because this year is very sort of like idiosyncratic in that sense.
But the reason I have American Fiction might be my number 10th, just because it's the one that does not translate onto the BAFTA long list.
Yeah.
Which I know it's very American centric. It's called American Fiction, and it's majority black cast, which BAFTA does not like. They want their movies lily white. So there's other reasons why it might not be on the BAFTA long list, but that's also why I see it as vulnerable.
Which, I mean, to me, both American Fiction and All of Us Strangers are stronger than Maestro right now. So I might be in a situation where I need to drop 2 movies out of that PGA top 10 to make room for these 2.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, like an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, like matchup to me is more likely to happen than 10 out of 10.
Right.
That's just the reality of how, like, the stats every year are pretty much how things shake out.
Yeah. And beyond that, what else could take a spot here? It's very hard to say. Air, a very outside shot.
Sure.
I don't even think Saltburn anymore.
I would say it's probably as likely as Air.
Yeah. I mean, it's a distant 13th or something, I think. Otherwise, I really...
I would say maybe to round out like a top 15, maybe The Color Purple.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
There's a world where I think maybe Oprah gets on the phone and just through sheer will gets at that 10th spot, but it still seems so unlikely.
Which, I mean, if I need to pick between Maestro and Color Purple, it's like Color Purple, like every day of the week. By the way.
Oh my God. Anything that knocks out Maestro is an automatic 10 out of 10 movie, in my opinion.
like literally anything that pulls that off, it's going to be like, yeah.
It's going to my Letterboxd top 4.
Yeah. It's a tough one to crack, because for a lot of people these are the 10.
Yeah.
And I can see why. I think I'm just gonna, when we actually do our final Oscar predictions, I think I'm just gonna like balls out, no guts, no glory, and because that's more fun.
It is more fun.
Yeah.
And I think, again, if All of Us Strangers does really well, that could be the film that changes this from being a 10 out of 10 match.
Yeah, I just wish that that Andrew Haight was maybe more of a threat in director, and the movie does not have that. I think he is definitely getting in screenplay, which good.
Yeah.
I probably need to look a little more closely at what's going on with director and what could happen in director, and then maybe like compare and contrast with picture. Even maybe editing would be probably a decent indicator of what might happen. And maybe it's like Spider-Man.
Yeah. And then people thought that early on that it could be a Best Picture contender, but it losing to The Boy and the Heron at the Golden Globes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Though The Boy and the Heron got in. Oh.
What if?
What if?
Oh my God.
It had some box office. We never know.
I just
Very distant chance.
Like with you saying that. I was like, ooh, what if?
Should we do our BAFTA predictions real quick?
Let's do it.
So we want to do screenplays.
Yeah, so I only really did
the acting.
I mean, I did like the main 8 basically.
Great.
Yeah. Screenplay adapted. So this is what for screenplay it's 5, not 6 for whatever reason. At least I think. But for adapted, I have All of Us Strangers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest.
I have the exact same 5.
Which means I think we're right.
Zone is getting in.
Yeah.
I think everything else, Wonka, The Killer, Dumb Money, Are You There, God, they're way distantly behind. American Fiction could slip in, but I just don't think BAFTA's going to embrace it.
It's not BAFTA friendly at all.
It didn't get in the film top 10, so I don't imagine.
There aren't enough white people in it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We have the
so
same
you
5?
have the same 5?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, perfect. For original, I have Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, How to Have Sex, Past Lives, and Rye Lane.
Oh, interesting. I have Anatomy of a Fall, Barbies, Holdovers, How to Have Sex, and Past Lives.
Yeah, so Holdovers, I think it's very possible.
Yeah, but it's another one where it's like, is it too American?
That was the main reason why I was like, maybe they can just nominate something homegrown here, and they would rather do that.
Yeah,
it is a very deeply sort of like American, almost like regionally American movie.
It's on the cusp for me.
Yeah, but it could easily happen.
Mm-hmm.
It could easily happen.
But yeah, I didn't predict Saltburn. Sorry, Emerald.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought about it, but at the end of the day, I didn't even see that much passion behind it, like abroad.
No, I think it's more of just an online film, Twitter.
Yeah. Fodder.
Fodder, exactly.
Yeah. Supporting actors. So now I have 6 in here.
Yes.
I have Jamie Bell, Ryan Gosling, Robert Downey Jr., Paul Mescal, Mark Ruffalo, and Ben Whishaw.
Oh, nice. Ben Whishaw. Yeah, that could absolutely happen. I have Mark Ruffalo, Paul Mescal, De Niro, Downey Jr., Gosling, and I keep going back and forth between Jamie Bell and Dominic Sessa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to align with you and say Jamie Bell as a previous winner here.
Yeah, it's I think a little more likely. The reason why I went with Wishaw is that I was sort of surprised that he was the only actor from that movie to make the short list.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean makes sense because he is British.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 2 actors in that ensemble are French. And, BAFTA does not really love the French. Because nobody in Europe does. Whoops. So yeah, but I thought it was interesting that happened, and it was just kind of like a gut feeling.
I think it's absolutely in the car in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
I do think we're going to get at least one of the All of Us Strangers for sure. I think Paul Mescal is definitely getting in.
Yeah.
Bell, I mean, he's won here before, so he could
Yeah.
absolutely get into. I'm gonna align with you and go with him as my sixth for
I
right
will
now.
only ever like predict against a British performer here if it's like Olivia Colman, because after The Favorite, they were just like, "We're done with you."
We are done. She did something to the like royal family or
I
something. I don't know
don't
what
know
she
what
did.
happened. I do not know
Yeah,
what happened,
she
but
yeah she hit a corgi with a car or something. I don't know.
they're like going out of their way to actually pretend she doesn't exist anymore. So, but I mean, everybody else, I think it's a fair bet that
Yeah,
they'll find room for them.
absolutely. Supporting actress.
Yes.
So I have Claire Foy,
Mm-hmm.
Danielle Brooks, Davine Joy Randolph, Blunt, Pike, and Sandra Hüller.
All right. So I think we match 5 out of 6. I have Blunt, Foy, Hooler, Pike, Randolph, and Myers.
Oh, interesting. That'd be
Because I
amazing.
just wanted to be messy. And it just struck me as really, really odd that she would make the shortlist in the first place because
Hmm.
she's literally not appeared anywhere else.
Hmm.
Which to me says it just there's a little bit of like traction behind her here.
There's some passion for her somewhere. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And she's another actress. She's not on the SAG ensemble list.
Which then
She,
yeah would just really piss me off. So I was like, you know
yeah,
what, I'm just gonna put her in here.
that'd be amazing. I think
Yeah,
that'd be actually really, really, really cool. But I love that. I love that we both think Holder's getting in. I think she absolutely is,
yeah.
and that could be the key she needs to break into the Oscar five. Lead actor.
Hmm.
Uh, you go first.
Okay, I have Giamatti, Yo, McKay, Murphy, Scott, and Wright.
Nice. We're close.
Hmm.
I have Scott, Murphy, Wright, Giamatti, you, and I have Keegan
Okay, which I
as
would
my
like sure
sixth.
yeah.
Again, just because he won last year, um, they he won despite being Irish
Somehow. Yeah.
somehow.
I will say that if Cooper manages to get in here, that they will just have failed us because this is it's down to you to really steer this category in a completely different direction
Hmm.
and just really think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then actress.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have Mulligan, I have Stone, I have Gladstone, I have McKenna Bruce, I have Margot Robbie, and I have Sandra Hüller.
I have a question. Mulligan did not make it in for Promising Young Woman, right?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So I have Gladstone, I have Hooler, I have Lee, I have McKenna Bruce, I have Apara, and I have Stone.
Oh.
Although I think that there's maybe more of an incentive to actually vote for Mulligan for this movie than there was for Promising Young Woman, which I thought was a little more out there.
Hmm.
This to me just seems like it is a like long suffering wife kind of trope. Which to me
Right.
is just a little safer. But I mean, the fact that she missed out for that movie in a year, which she was one of the presumptive favorites to win the Oscar, honestly, it's
Hmm.
very sus. Yeah,
It is sus.
yeah.
I also want to acknowledge that I am predicting you for actor, but not Lee for actress, which is probably really dumb. But
Ooh, I didn't realize that you were doing that. That is very ballsy.
I just think there's more room on the actor side.
Yeah.
And the actor side, it's just such a competitive category, plus the British element that will, I think, lift like McKenna Bruce at least into the category.
Yeah.
And again, they're racist, so
They sure are. So, yeah.
we'll see.
Director, which has 6, even if film like Best Picture has 5, which
Right.
okay. For director, I just listed like literally the film titles. I have Anatomy of a Fall, All of Us Strangers, How to Have Sex, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest.
Let's see. I think we have 5 of 6.
Okay.
So I have Anatomy of a Fall, All of Us Strangers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest.
Okay. I do think that How to Have Sex is getting in. And I also think it's probably wouldn't like an outside chance to actually win British film. Although I'd be shocked if it wasn't All of Us Strangers, but I think if it's not All of Us Strangers, it's How to Have Sex.
Right.
Probably. It just, to me, made sense to, also because of the narrative, like a female director, to just include that here.
Yeah, I think that.
But I am aware that Scorsese is not in my lineup, and that is a very bizarre thing to predict.
Yeah, but did he get in for The Irishman?
I'm not sure.
I mean, he's had a pretty good track record with BAFTA, but I don't know if he got in for The Irishman. Let's look.
So he did get in.
Yes.
Okay. It is what it is. You have
Do it.
So between the two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take the L. I'm happy to take the L. I don't think he's going to win. So, yeah.
All right. Best film, top 5. I have All of Us Strangers, Anatomy of a Fall, Killers, Oppenheimer, and Zone of Interest.
Okay. I have All of Us Strangers, Anatomy of a Fall, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest.
Oh, wow. Killers snub.
Yeah. It just feels a little too American.
Yeah, I could see that.
And Poor Things is a little more international. And also, I think I'm living in a space where I do not think that Anatomy and Zone would not get in here. And just wasn't enough room. I would have probably, if it was also like 6 nominees, I would have probably put in Killers. But
yeah, because The Zone of Interest is also a British.
It sure is. It is their
film.
It is their Oscar movie.
That's right. So
yeah,
I know it's when you think about it, you think it's a German movie, or you think it's
yeah.
But it's a British film, so they're, I think, definitely going to be giving a lot of nominations.
Yeah. I don't.
And so we got a Barbie snub. We both are predicting the Barbie snub.
I don't have. I was gonna say I don't have Barbie pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, Past Lives snubbed. Maestro, bye-bye.
I only have it in supporting actor, I think. And I have it in original screenplay.
Yeah, I could definitely see a situation where the BAFTAs kind of do a reality check on Barbie.
Thank you. So that is exactly what I was thinking when I put these together. Because also, like, what I was saying, like, at the beginning, it's like, it's too mainstream for them, I think, to take seriously. And it's one of those movies where I just can see them, like, turn up their nose and be like,
yeah,
no.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting then going into Oscar predictions, how that affects people's perception of... I still think Barbie will be strong at the Oscars, but I think you're right. As we've discussed multiple times, like, there's not a rush to reward it for anything other than song.
I would imagine that Oppenheimer and Barbie get the most nominations, and then Barbie just wins one, and Oppenheimer wins like a crap ton.
Yeah. Could definitely see that where they both get double digits.
And I think it is, overwhelmingly strong in song. I think to a point where I would say 90% it's a done deal.
Yeah.
So there's that. They do have that. And I think in terms of like, we're really sending the biggest movie of the year home empty handed. It's not going to happen because it's going to win one.
Yeah, it'll win song. Because when's the last time a song nominee or winner was also up for record in Song of the Year at the Grammys?
Was it My Heart Will Go On?
They won both, I think, at the Grammys and then the Oscar.
I don't remember though. If it was like, it probably more recent than that, but I can't.
I'm sure there's been a nominee that has been nominated, but it's not not a common occurrence. And I think
she's kind of like on a hot streak both at the Oscars and at the Grammys, so I think it makes sense. And honestly, I think it is the one song from like I think any movie this year that really kind of like crossed over into like the general consciousness.
Yeah,
like the
that's
cultural kind of. It was really just sort of like embraced on TikTok. Which now I think is the decider of all things, apparently. Somehow. And I think that does make a difference in terms of like, we're not really just shitting all over it. It's still getting maybe like 10 nominations and winning one.
Yeah.
But then I think the money that it made is at the end of the day, the reward.
Yeah.
For it.
I think you're right. And then Billie Eilish can make earrings out of her Oscars and go over to lunch at Diane Warren's house.
And I will want to get invited to that. If someone can get me in on that, like, brunch.
All right. I think we did it.
We sure did.
All right. There's more happening soon. We know the Critics' Choices are tonight.
I'll keep them in the background. Literally, that's how I'm treating it. I'm going to watch tennis on my, like, laptop and then be like, oh, good for you guys.
I'm just going to look for updates on Eric's Twitter, basically. And then we have BAFTA nominations coming out later this week, so we have a lot to react to in the lead up to our final Oscar predictions.
And honestly, I think our next podcast is going to be final Oscar predictions.
I think you're right.
Because they come out on the 23rd.
Oh, that's right.
So that is, that's the big one that you want to tune in for.
It's going to be good.
Yeah. And I promise it's going to be messy, at least on my part.
Oh, we're going to get messy.
Yeah.
I love mess.
I love mess.
All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.